So I originally wanted to say that black people shouldn't be allowed to import anything, but I changed it to how to keep Africa poor. I know probably you don't want Africa to remain poor, but this is something which I'm just going to say, maybe I should say, these are the things which keep Africa poor. And you're going to understand from the moment I will start explaining point after another, you will quickly understand that we're really getting much poorer because of doing these things. And if we change these things, or if you as an individual understand on how to go against these things, you have more chances of getting richer actually, comparatively to how we can see our society in Africa getting much poor when others are actually increasing. So let me list 3 things which makes that black people keep on getting poor. Point number 1, we are allowed to consume more. The point being, we can't produce, but still we consume. We are not making any car, but still we buy tons of cars. We are not making any technical invention or creating anything technical, yet we are consuming a lot of technical. And let me show you something. What can happen if in your family you are only receiving money which you can eat, but you are not producing money? What can happen? And after some days you are going to get poor because others will be producing and eating, but you are only eating what you kept, what you amassed for a time. And luckily for us as Africans, we have a lot of resources, which I can say natural resources, which actually help us to even survive the little which we are surviving now. But if that wasn't there, how would we be? Which really means that we should get into the time of now producing instead of only consuming. If you're working in the tech industry, if you are in agriculture, if you are in the media section, if you are in whatever thing you are doing, you have to understand that this is the time you should make yourself producing and also consuming. If you're only consuming, you are a waste on this planet and you are not going to survive longer. If you want to survive longer, produce and consume. Point number 2, we are helped to get into our comfort. We have the UN, we have the WHO, we have the UNHCR. We have a lot of things which help us to get into our comfort. When unfortunately, it shouldn't be them helping us, it should be us working on our comfort. Just look at this. How did other countries, let's take the case of Europe, become better in what they're doing? Let me say first in science or in politics. They had to go through a period of trouble and then by themselves try to figure out what can we do in order for this trouble to end. But for us, we don't think on what can we do in order for this trouble to end. We look for who can help us in order for this trouble to end. And that is one of the major things which makes that we keep on getting poor and poor, because we don't actually think on ourselves on how to get solutions by ourselves, but we think on how to get someone else who can give us a solution. And unfortunately, when it's someone else, that solution can't last because they don't understand the system. But when it's for ourselves, we work on it, we teach the generation after us on how to work on it, and it keep on getting better instead of having someone else to teach us how to get into our comfort. So don't take help from people. Work on yourself and make that you live the comfort which you need, not someone else to give you the comfort which you need. Point number 3, we believe but we don't know. Trust me, this is something which you might think it's something which is very little, but this is something which really affects so much everything which you do. Just imagine why most of Africans believe that probably there is someday our country is going to have one president who will be much better than this one, and probably he will come from the opposition and he's going to make our country greater. That idea is actually something which actually doesn't help on anything, because we don't know who is that guy, yet we believe. We believe that probably someday Africa is going to get much better. We believe that someday we are going to have our redemptions. We believe all those things, but there is nothing which we have precision on, which makes that we don't work with precision. We don't work on our things knowing that the outcome result which we need is this, but we just expect something to happen which is this, and that expectation make us that we relax behind and say, oh, things will get much better someday, when if we change that mind and go to the mind of let's work on this, it will give us a chance of working on something and actually make something happen instead of expecting something to happen. And these 3 points actually have simple solutions. Solution number 1, we should always start thinking on how to make something instead of importing it. What if I can tell you that even the case of where I am right now in Congo, we don't make plastics, but we have to import them from another country? That is something really stupid. And I think me as a Congolese and so many other who are around me, we should work on what if we can just make our own plastics here instead of buying them from outside. What if we can make toothpicks only. What if we can make that instead of importing it from China? Those simple things can teach us or prepare a way for the generation behind us, because if probably they should be hard to start, but they are going to prepare a ground for the generation after us to not be as poor as we are or as dependent as we are. Point number 2, instead of thinking on how we should call the UN to come and help us on this and that, why don't we think on how to make our politics get much better into this and that? That can help us to understand how our things really work. Instead of always taking our patients to go to countries outside of Africa to get cured, why don't we just understand on ourselves how we can work on that particular disease? And that will make us to be protected from the next thing which will happen, because we'll teach the generation after us how to face that particular problem. Instead of believing that things will get better in the future, why don't we just start working on them now, so that future will happen, if we might be there or not, but at least we'll be sure that we've been working on it, so we have a higher chance of it happening. And trust me, if you as a black person start practicing these things, we have much more chances that you and me, if we practice them, we can make Africa look different than how it is now, a just dependent continent which has only poor countries. If we change this, we have the chance of making Africa again have a name just as any other continent on this planet. Thank you so much for being here. Catch you next time.